When I say the word tree, what pops into your mind? Is it the word T-R-E-E, or is it a green, luscious tree? If you're like most people, you would have imagined a picture and not text. And this is proof that our brain thinks in pictures, which is why our first trick to remembering anything is to convert what you're trying to remember into a picture. For example, if you're trying to memorize the elements from the periodic table, then instead of trying to remember the word hydrogen, you would see what hydrogen sounds like or what you think of when you see the word hydrogen. For me, it kind of sounds like a hydrant. For the second element, helium, you can use helium balloons. You are much more likely to remember images compared to text. Our second trick to remembering anything is to use stories. Now look at this list of the 5 first elements from the periodic table of elements. Pretty boring and unmemorable for the brain, right? Now imagine this. You are sitting on a red fire hydrant and suddenly it bursts open, and from inside it come millions and millions of helium balloons all soaring into the sky. You grab hold onto one of them and you pull it down, and inside you see that there's a lithium battery inside. You try to grab hold of the lithium battery, but it melts in your hand and turns into thousands of berries. All of those berries fall from your hand onto the floor where there is brown mud. Now go to the comments and try recalling what you remember. You just memorized the first 5 elements of the periodic table of elements. So the first, hydrant, is going to remind you of hydrogen. The second image in our story, helium balloons, is going to remind you of helium. Then the third one, lithium batteries, is going to remind you of lithium. Then the berries that it melted into is going to remind you of beryllium. And then lastly, the brown mud that it fell onto will remind you of boron. When we use stories to memorize anything, we use all 5 of our senses, and all of those get connected to make associations. And our brain lights up like fireworks inside, making connections from all over, causing us to remember the information with much more ease. Now, before moving on to the next tip, if you're new on this channel, then I am Emma Alam, the World Memory Champion, World Speed Reading Champion, World Mind Mapping Champion in the junior category, as well as holder of 2 Guinness World Records. And here on YouTube, I share quick and effective tips on memory, speed reading, learning, and much more. And so if you found this video useful so far, then don't forget to click the like and subscribe button for more tips. Do you tend to forget your exam material? Probably, otherwise you wouldn't have clicked on this video. But if you close your eyes right now, can you remember exactly where everything is placed in your house? Where your bed is, where all the spoons are in the kitchen, where all the snacks are hidden? It must be almost automatic for you to be able to recall all the 100 things that are in your house. Our third memory trick is to place images or stories onto a mental journey, which is called the journey method or the loci method. Now, essentially, you're just placing the images or stories that you want to remember onto familiar spots in a location of your choice. This could be your house, your school, your office, any place that you're familiar with. Let's try doing this. Imagine the front door of your house. And from the front door, you see a big red hydrant poking out from the front door. You open the door, and in your hallway, you see millions of helium balloons floating all around, and so on. Now, by doing this, you are, first of all, storing the information in a visual way, then you are making stories, and you're placing it on a location or familiar place that you already remember. And by doing this, you're essentially sealing the information into your long-term memory for good. Now, the fourth memory trick to remembering anything is to explain the new concept or new information to yourself in the mirror or to a friend or sibling. What you'll do is, after you learn a new concept, you'll just go to a mirror or to a sibling and you'll explain the concept in your own words. What this does is, first of all, you have to be able to understand the concept in order to explain it in your own words. Secondly, in the process of explaining, you may come up with different associations or new examples that you connect with, and that will help you remember the information better. And thirdly, this is a way of active recall. So you're essentially testing yourself on the information that you're trying to remember, hence scientifically proven to improve our retention of the material that we want to remember. A German psychologist, Hermann Ebbinghaus, came up with the forgetting curve, which shows us the decline in memory over time. Now, when we newly learn a concept and then we don't make any attempt to review it or relearn it, eventually that information fades away from our memory. In fact, the highest level and the most drastic decline in memory retention happens just an hour after you've learned it. So that's why our fifth memory trick is to review newly learned information at specific intervals, even if it's just for 5 to 10 minutes, because that will help it get sealed into your memory. Now, your first review should be 10 minutes right after you've newly learned that information. This could be taking out your notes and quickly going through them for just 5 minutes, because that information will still be fresh in your memory. Then the second review should be a day later, 24 hours later. The third review should be a week later, and the fourth review should be a month later. The fifth review should be 3 months later, and then lastly, the sixth review should be 6 months later. Now, when you review at these specific intervals, you are ensuring that you don't forget that information through a long period of time. Now, before we move on to the next tip, if you've been finding the techniques that I've been sharing useful so far and you'd like to learn more about them, then my coach, Sanya Alam, has an online memory skills course, which I will link in the description box below. And in this course, you will learn proven memory techniques that are essentially designed to help you remember anything effortlessly so that you can use the powerful capacity of your brain. It is scientifically proven that the mere presence of your phone in front of you hinders your ability to focus. An experiment took 800 people and split them into 3 groups. All groups were asked to perform tasks that required focus and concentration. Now, the first group was asked to silence their phones and place it on the table in front of them. The second group was asked to, again, silence their phones and place them in their pockets or in their bag that they can't see, but it was still in the same room. And the third group was asked to place their phone in a separate room. Now, the results found that the third group performed exceedingly well compared to the other 2 groups just because their phone was in another room. And so when you're doing something and you want to remember new information, then you should put your phone far away from you, because this will help you focus and use your cognitive abilities to their best. Our 8th memory trick is to use breathing exercises for 5 minutes before you start studying or before you start to learn new information. This will put you in the right brain waves and will put you in the right state of mind to absorb the new material efficiently. Here's a very simple exercise that you can do starting now that will put you in the optimal state for learning. Place your hand in the center of your chest and notice your heartbeats. Bring all of your attention to the center of your chest. Now, breathe in for 5 seconds and exhale for 5 seconds. Now, while continuing to focus in the center of your chest and while breathing in this even rhythmic pattern, think of something that makes you happy, makes you feel appreciation or joy. Just think of something that makes you feel really happy from inside. Now continue doing all 3 steps for 3 to 5 minutes. A really easy trick to remembering anything very quickly is by using acrostics. Now, these are basically sentences that you create from the first letters of the words or information that you want to remember. For example, if you want to remember this list of elements from 6 till 10, you can just remember this sentence. Cats need oxygen for napping. Now, the first letter in each of the words in the sentence is going to trigger your memory to recall the name of the element. Our 10th memory trick is to use the power of words. Now, our words shape our reality, and so if we keep using our words to say things like, I have a terrible memory, or I never seem to remember anything, my memory just doesn't work, well, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and your memory will stay terrible throughout your life. Instead, taking some time to appreciate your brain by saying, I have an amazing brain, or I can remember anything I need to. You will notice that your brain and memory start responding accordingly, and your memory will start to improve. Now, I hope that this video helped you, and if you found this useful, then you can also watch this video right here, in which I share 7 exam tips that will help you study smarter and not harder. And until next week, be happy and be joyful.